everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. My name's Kimberly Dueck. I am going to talk today about how to be less hard on yourself. And I should preface this by saying it's not that I'm an expert on not being hard on myself. It's probably quite the opposite. I think I have a lot of experience in going pretty hard and pushing myself to new boundaries, new limits. So for me, it's a life journey. You might notice the background. I am sitting in a hospital bed. So for any of you that haven't seen my Facebook posts, I was recently in a ski accident where I broke both my hip and my shoulder. So some have been teasing me a little bit that I go to the extreme when it comes to my research for my talks. And I can assure you that wasn't my intent, but it certainly has given me a lot of time to pause and reflect on this topic, which I think is a really important one. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some scenarios, I guess, that I've been working myself through and some of the things that have worked for me. I've really been focusing on this topic over the last few years. It's a life journey, so I'm not by any stretch done, but hopefully we'll come up with some nuggets for you today that will be helpful for your life as well. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about what does it even mean to go hard on yourself, and is it even a bad thing? And I think one of the articles I read was, in fact, we need to go hard on ourselves from time to time because that's how we learn and we stretch and we grow. But the question is, at what point do you go too far? And I think there's two things in particular that do drive us there. One is when we sign ourselves up for just too many things and we find ourselves really overwhelmed. And then there's the times where we have that negative talk going on in our minds and we start to pile on and we really get ourselves down. So I think those are two different, very key scenarios that drive us to go maybe a little too hard. And what that might look like is perhaps it gets a little hard to get up in the morning, or we're feeling a bit depressed or really just down on ourselves, really having a hard time maybe functioning with life. So when you're starting to feel that way, those are pretty good indicators that you're feeling maybe you've gone a little bit too far. So today we're going to talk again about some key scenarios. I'm not going to talk about like the obvious things that we read about a lot in self-help books, such as, get enough sleep or get exercise. These are all, of course, important. But I want to talk about some very real scenarios that I deal with on a day-to-day basis or have done so in the past. So first, I want to talk about learning as a process. And this one here stems from an extreme fear of failure for me. I'd say I'm maybe a little bit of a perfectionist, and I really like to see things go well. And this isn't obviously realistic to expect it's going to happen all the time. And I think where I learned the most about how to handle this was during my high performance leadership project, where not that the project was going poorly, it just was that it wasn't going the way I had envisioned. And I was going fairly hard on myself, I was pushing my team, and it wasn't until I started to have discussions with my guidance committee that they started to help me realize that it wasn't so much that the result had to be perfect. It was I learning about, was the process teaching me something? And I've read some really great books, one most recently called Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. And it talks about how important it is to think about things as not a fixed mindset, but a growth mindset. So instead of being defined by the outcome, we are learning from the outcome. So if we're defined by the outcome, we think, well, this is just how we are. If we have the growth mindset, it says, what have I learned from it? So you're probably wondering why I have the matrix up on the screen here. The thing I like to tell myself is life isn't like the Matrix. So if you haven't seen the movie, it's basically Keanu Reeves' character plugs in and he gets to practice his skills and he comes back almost seconds later and he's suddenly an expert at something. And so my self-talk is what I do is I tell myself, I'm like, life is not the matrix. As much as I would like it to be, it simply isn't, and there's no way that we can expect things will go perfectly every time. And maybe we shouldn't even want them to, because how else are we going to grow and become even more evolved human beings? So learning is a process. And again, that's addressing my fear of failure. So up next, we have this little notion that your time is precious. And I've had to discover over time that I am not, in fact, Wonder Woman, as much as I would love to be. I can't, in fact, be everywhere, be everything, be all things to all people, because there's just this one little constraint that we unfortunately all have, is that there is, in fact, only 24 hours in a day. And I thought for this webinar, I'd have some fun, me being the finance geek that I am, decided to do a bit of a pie chart here just to demonstrate for you and for myself what really our day looks like on a typical basis, and really start thinking about the fact that you don't in fact have infinite amounts of time. So we have to budget time for sleep. We have to budget time for actually going to work. We need money. Maybe if you're not working, you might have extra time for that. But in general, we have to go to work. There's all these other little things that we don't even think about, such as time in the washroom, or the basic stuff, which leaves us with an approximate about almost 20% of our day is free time. And so free time is the thing that is maybe variable amongst all of us. So that could be your alone time. If you have a family, how much time do you spend with your family or your significant other? Toastmasters, of course, fits in there. So, the big question is how do you want to spend your free time? And for me, one time I signed myself up to serve in a district role, the district treasurer at the time. And I served also as a VPPR for my club, and I very quickly realized that I wasn't able to serve both roles to the level that I wanted to. So unfortunately, I had to stop the VPPR role in order to serve the district to the level that I wanted to. And I really didn't like saying no, but unfortunately, that's what was required in order for me to remain, keep my sanity, and of course serve to the level that I wanted to. So that's really the key thing to keep in mind, is your time is precious. And in fact, your time is used every single day. So every decision you make, every time you say yes, means that you automatically are giving up something, whether you do so intentionally or not. You are spending every minute of every day. It's not like money where you can bank it. Unfortunately, it's something that you have to realize that, oh, I'm going to say yes. What is it that I am replacing that time with? And when you look at this pie chart, when we are doing things without intention, I venture to bet if you're anything like me, you're giving up on very critical things that we require, such as sleep or maybe workouts or whatever the case may be, or in your free time, giving up on time with significant other can really have an impact on your relationship. So I think really thinking long and hard when you're saying yes, what does this mean to your life and your sanity, and are you going to stretch yourself too far by doing it? Sometimes you can't anticipate, you have to reprioritize, but at the end of the day, your free time is precious. All right, so next one, pick your battles. Well, this one here is a little focused more on how others have an impact on us. So the reality is that as leaders in particular, whether you have people who work for you, who you pay, or if it's volunteers within Toastmasters, where you're working on a club executive or at the district level, the reality is you do depend on other people a lot for your success and for outcomes that you're hoping to strive towards in your day-to-day basis here. And unfortunately, sometimes people let you down. And it's almost a guarantee that's going to happen. And so in the past, for me, I've really, I think, beaten myself up more so than I needed to, because I was wondering, okay, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? How could I have done this better? And at the end of the day, you have to understand not everybody is in your mind and communicates the same way that you do. So for the control freaks such as myself, this one has been a particularly fun challenge to work on. And so one of the things that I tell myself when it comes to people letting me down is that not everybody plays by the same rules. So what I've done is really try to start paying close attention to what the other people's needs are and what is it that their priorities are, and make sure that at the outset our priorities are aligned. And if I have something really critical that I want to get done, I'm careful in who I ask for help. Do I really trust that person? Am I keeping, relatively close tabs on the progress of things? And I think at the end of the day, the most important thing I've learned, again, pick your battles, is also not being as attached to the outcome. And that's been a really hard lesson. That's probably going to be a lifelong one for me, is how attached are you to the outcome? Can we be flexible? Can you think of new creative ways, plan B, C, D, if things aren't maybe going as well as you would have preferred them to be? Find your happy place. This is one of my favorites. It's one that I've actually very recently been working on a lot. This one is related to my fear of rejection. This one's hard to admit for me because I want to appear like I'm the Teflon lady. But the reality is that I don't like to upset people or disappoint people. And I don't like when, they're so upset with me, they don't want to talk to me, or perhaps there's some conflict. But the reality is that you can't possibly keep everybody happy all the time. And the way I'm learning to deal with this one is I'm learning that I need to be really solid and confident and comfortable in my own skin. And of course, this one's really easier said than done. So what things I've done with this is really, I've been doing a lot of meditation. I've gone on silent retreats. But my favorite place that I have solved so many problems is what you see here, is this pool. It's this gorgeous pool in Sebring, Florida, which is close to where my parents live in the winter months. And every year I go down there, and I go with a strong intention to try and understand, all the things that maybe I'm not feeling solid about, or things that are bothering me. And I'll tell you one thing. There is not a problem that is in my mind that I go into this pool, I swim my laps for about half an hour, that I haven't figured out some solution to that problem, or to how I want to handle dealing with maybe the individual that I have let down. For me, this is my happy place. And I think this is different for everybody, but it's so, so, so important that you spend some of your personal time on finding your happy place. Where is it that you can just listen to yourself, listen to your inner voice, because your gut is what really needs to guide you. And when people are unhappy with you, it's easy to feel bad about it, but at the end of the day, if you feel confident in what it is that you're trying to get done, it's a little easier to stay focused and maybe help others also understand where you're coming from. So that's where communication comes in. And again, so finding your happy place will certainly help you with your fear of rejection with other people. And the last scenario that I want to talk about is probably a little more prevalent for women, but I think it is still relevant for everybody, is this feeling like a fraud. There's a lot of research actually on this. And of course, what I have here is to find that support network to help you. And so as far as feeling like a fraud, I think I felt a lot more like this earlier in my career. So every time I got promoted, I don't know why I felt this way. I mean, I knew that I was competent. I knew that I had deserved and earned it, but it was almost like I was waiting for someone to realize that I, in fact, should not be in that position. And just waiting for someone to call me out or doubt me because perhaps I was doubting myself. And that's a confidence issue, of course. So to me, it wasn't until I moved to Ottawa where I joined my ladies club, and I just found this amazing support network and just such beautiful friendships that I've nurtured in that club, people that I really trust. And so what I'd encourage all of you to do in finding your support network is really find people that you trust. Find people that when you talk to them, it's not like they have their own agenda. When they listen to you and talk to you, they really have your best interest in mind, and they're a cheerleader for you. And I guarantee you, having that is so invaluable if you want to have a sounding board, bounce ideas off of them. They'll cheer you up when maybe you're feeling a little down, or they'll be your accountability if you're maybe going a little too far the other way. I think having that amazing support network is so important in helping you build your confidence. And I think this is really what we do at Toastmasters. So this one maybe isn't so revolutionary, but it's still something that I think is worth acknowledging and intentionally going after. If you are having some lower confidence in a project that you're dealing with, again, call on that support network, and I'm sure they will come through time and time again for you as well. So just to wrap things up again, I've talked about a few things here. So obviously having that fear of failure, remember, learning is a process. You can't possibly plug in and know everything all at once. Number two, really don't overextend yourself. Understand that there is still only 24 hours in the day, and really don't give up on sleep and those critical things. So just try to remember when you say yes that you are in fact saying no to something else. So be intentional with that. And number three, remember, others let us down. So pick your battles. Try not to be as attached to the outcome. And number four, that fear of rejection. Find your happy place. And lastly, of course, when you feel like a fraud, or if you're lacking some confidence, just trust your social networks. And this last comment I wanted to make here, self-compassion. I read this amazing book by Kristen Neff called Self-Compassion. Earlier this year I read that. And not that there was anything earth-shattering in that book, but just reminded me that it is inevitable that we're going to feel down on ourselves. And the key here is not to pile on. Have self-compassion. It's pretty common for us to have compassion for others, but it's pretty rare for us to have that self-compassion where we accept the fact that we aren't feeling our best on a particular day. So instead of going further down on yourself, just say, hey, you know what, this day isn't my best day and I'm not feeling great. This is very normal. And sometimes it's okay to cry, or something, it's oftentimes okay to cry, maybe certain scenarios you don't want to, maybe at work or whatever, but get home and just feel those feelings and don't stuff them down, because if you stuff them down, then they'll just keep coming back up and haunting you later. So to me, it's really just an awesome journey of learning how to care for yourself and mastering, I guess, that inner voice inside of you that if it is things aren't going well, that that's very normal. It's part of the growth process, and keep in mind that growth mindset as opposed to the fixed mindset. And I think you'll have a lot more fun learning and growing and exploring yourself and where it is that you want to go with all the challenges that you're giving yourself. So with that, that's it for my content for tonight. I'm not sure if there's anyone out there with some questions or comments.
Hi, Kim. It's Michelle here.
Hey.
Hey, so that was a great speech. Thank you very much. And I loved your pie chart. I found myself focusing on that. And what caught my attention about that is in the free time. So I know from having seen your house that it's beautiful and always clean and neat and tidy. And so what I noticed was in your pie chart, it didn't include like cleaning and keeping a tidy home. So I assume that has to come from the 13% or whatever. And I'm focusing on that because right now I'm reading about like Marie Kondo's, like the basically like how you get a tidy home. And so just a comment really that that your pie chart really resonated with me and made me realize even more how precious the time is that we have and how important it is to say yes intentionally to things. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. I'm not sure if there was a question. I think you were asking me where my cleaning was on my pie chart.
Yes, I mean, I like, yes. How do you
Yeah.
fit that in?
Well, I've gone back and forth with cleaning in particular. I know this is a very relevant topic for a lot of people. How do you keep your house clean? Because I think uh, my boyfriend has a saying about keeping the house clean keeps the mind clean or tidy, or I'm not sure exactly what it is. He'll maybe tell me in a bit here, but um, so I've gone back and forth between having a maid come in once a month to help me, which is what I have right now. So I do spend some dollars to help me with freeing up some time. But I have in the past also done my own cleaning, and I do clean in between because once a month doesn't necessarily keep the house tidy all the time. And so to me, I try to stay efficient as I can. I mean, obviously I keep myself so busy that sometimes I'm not home hardly at all. So this injury is actually enlightening me to, just being at home for an extended period of time. But I really found when I do my own cleaning or tidying up that it's a nice way to unwind after a long day. And I mean, not everybody enjoys cleaning for that reason. So definitely, I think it's important to budget time for cleaning. I think it's really important because when you come home to a messy house, it really adds to the stress. It does for me anyway. And so, yes, I do agree that's a key thing. And then, of course, cooking is another thing that you may have noticed I didn't really have on my pie chart either. And I wouldn't say that I'm the world's best cook. I do enjoy cooking. Often I will cook on a bunch of um, lasagna or bigger batches of something on the weekend to last for the week. And lately, one of my go-tos has been to buy a salad at Pyro here in Barrhaven, just to give a shout out to them. There's another one downtown too, but I've really enjoyed those salads. They're really handy just to pick them up, and they're actually cheaper than if I went and bought all the ingredients and then threw half of them out because I couldn't finish them all. So you find little tricks to helping you save on time when you realize that your time is so limited and precious.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So again, not so much a question as a comment. Terry here. I really like the fact that you made reference to imposter syndrome and the confidence that especially women as they're moving through the career ladder and whatnot feel. And I know it's something that shows up often in speaking as well, in that really highly trained people will often think, well, my message isn't valid or this isn't valid. So it almost sounds like there could be a whole talk just on imposter syndrome, and the book that I read that really helped with that is The Confidence Code. It's written by two women, and it's really got a ton of brilliant information. I love the fact that you referred to two books in particular that you had read that are just part of who you are, but also tied into what you presented to us this evening. So it wasn't just your thoughts and feelings about everything that's happened and your observations, but you had some pretty good pertinent research in there as well. So that was really interesting. This is my first chance I've had to get in on one of these Toastmaster webinars, and since I'm tied to my chair right these days as well, it's good to just be able to contribute. So thanks for doing this from your hospital bed and for making it happen and not just saying, well, no to this, because you have to say yes to taking care of yourself in a really radical way right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's this life experience as, I don't know, life changing for me for sure. Sitting and staring at my toes as I joke, but at the same time, it really has given me pause to think about a lot of the stuff. And by the way, I did say yes to doing this webinar a while ago, and I was scheduled to do it earlier in March, but unfortunately with the accident, I was able to do it earlier, but I was bound and determined to get it done this month still. And I felt, and rightfully so, I knew that I would have the time to pause and reflect on it. So great timing on it. And Terry, I know you and I are in this together on both of us being injured. So, for any of you who are out there, this can happen to anyone, and freak accidents happen. And just remember, if it does happen to you, that just enjoy the time and take the time for yourself and for healing and the change of pace, because sometimes we just take time and all of our personal time, free time, we take it so for granted. And so just if any of you are ever in this situation, keep that in mind. But yeah, Terry, good point about the imposter syndrome there. I have read that book as well. I have a question here to repeat the book titles again. In fact, I'll just go ahead here. So I have all the books mentioned here that I used, including an article that I used as well. So again, I'd read all of these this calendar year, and they've been really inspiring. And the other thing that I did this year actually also was I went on a silent retreat over New Year's, which was quite a change for me, because normally I like to have a bit of a good time bringing in the new year, and this year I brought it in silence, and it was a really powerful and impactful experience. If any of you are willing to challenge yourself in that way, it's a lot of fun to train the brain just to be silent, and a lot of creativity comes with a quiet mind as well. So all right, well, hey, if there's no more questions, no problem. Oh, there's another question here. No, I think we're good. But thanks everyone so much for joining. Again, this is going to be posted on the District 61 website again, I think in a couple of days. And I've put my email address on here. Reach out to me on Facebook. This is a fabulous topic, can go on and on about it. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to send me a note, and would love to chat with you anytime. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks so much. And sleep well.
Yes, you too. Thanks.
Now that you've done that, take care.
Okay, you too.